All right, now it's being recorded. Just restarting from the start. Thanks, Daniel. Welcome to the CALEXT interim meeting, co-located with CalConnect at the Fast Mail headquarters in Philadelphia. We have a bunch of remote people on here. I'm Rod, I'm one of your chairs. I'm just noting down the names of people as they come into the Zoom connection for blue sheets, and of course the names of everyone here I already have and affiliations, so I will publish that as a list of blue sheets. I've spoken to everyone except Ryan, and Ryan, I know you're with Twitch, so hopefully you can hear us all right.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Awesome. Since this is an IETF meeting, it's under the conditions of the note well. Please check that up if you're not sure what it means. This is the agenda, which I just showed a second ago as well. Didn't have any feedback from anyone wanting to change anything, so let's get straight into it. Starting with the event pub, Mike.
Basically, what it says there, I think the last version addresses most of the issues except that one at the bottom. In a call we had about 30 odd minutes ago, I realized that I need to change the location type of party value to align with ordering JS calendar, and makes more sense anyway. So I've done that in my current version, so that would be version 16. And the only open issue, I think, is this one about URI usage Barry raised time back. And the only thing that I don't know that this is the best place to say much more than we say elsewhere, except follow the specs and be careful what you do with URIs. But I do think it's a topic that needs to be dealt with in more detail than we could in, say, this spec. There just doesn't seem to be an a single document you can go to which gives these, and it's not specific to this specification. It's for anything that has linked data in it, or binary data included in it. And there's some extra thoughts on privacy and things which need to be covered, but I think the best place is a separate document. So I guess that's a next step in the discussion.
Cool. So presumably we will wait for 16 to be uploaded and then do a last call on version 16.
Yeah, I can probably do that unless there's any last minute changes. I can do it later on today. I already have it updated for the location type.
You happy with that, Daniel? Doing a last call from this? We still can't hear you. Don't know what's wrong with your microphone. Just chat came up. It is hard to get Zoom to pop up, I think. Cool. All right. Well, I'll throw it out and get the area directors to comment on it. I mean, the URI thing is something that can be dealt with in last call anyway. It's not. I don't think there's anything in the working group where we want to change it. It's more the rest of IETF's attitude to it. All right. Next is JS calendar. Robert.
Yeah, so we submitted version 19 of JS Calendar last week, and in our opinion, it is now really ready for last call. We added IANA registries and tables to fill the initial IANA tables. During the discussion that we had at CalConnect just an hour ago, there are only very few and undisputed changes. So we think that the document is ready for last call.
Yeah, good. So I'm gonna have a I'm gonna send a last. So it's gonna be a working group last call, I guess.
Yep.
So I can start that immediately. And I'm gonna write to Shepherd. So I mean, I'm gonna review during the last call the document.
Okay, so so then the remaining changes that we just discussed an hour ago, we will add in the document at the end of last call, or
No, just add it right now, and
Yeah.
and I'm gonna send the last call.
okay, perfect.
This is the items we discussed in the call earlier today, whether to make participant roles optional, a location type, the free busy status, and specification of new properties in IANA registry rather than requiring RFCs for everything.
Yeah, we can get the last few updates published by tomorrow, hopefully today. So yeah, I think let's start the last. Hopefully, I get this out.
Cool.
And the other thing that has been discussed was the full day event. Is that now solved?
I think
Yes,
that's
yeah. Just happen to be looking into it.
yeah, that hasn't changed since version 18 or 17 or whatever we
Yeah.
did that. And as far as I know, everyone's happy with that. Certainly, no one's raised objections that I've heard recently.
Okay, good.
All right. Anything else on this, Robert?
No. Probably, so for IANA registries, should we start the register process at IANA during last call or after last call?
I think that generally happens after last call. It goes to IANA and they see the section that tells them what they need to do, and they then email you and say, here's what we're planning to do. Does this match?
Yeah.
Your
Okay. Okay.
expectation?
So there are actually two ways to do. The first one is, if you're really sure, we can do that this way. If you want to check with the INI if they are okay, just drop them an email to say, this is the current INA section. Are you okay with that?
Cool.
Okay.
I guess that it doesn't hurt to do that.
No.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Next is subscription upgrade, Mike.
I don't think there are any significant changes that you've got, at least in the protocol or anything else. But in conversations that I had in the last couple of weeks, it was clear that the real benefit was for mobile clients, and it doesn't really seem like that in the spec. So I think the major change is just to change the description of it to emphasize where the savings are, and then resubmit with that.
Cool. So we'll do a work group last call on this. When do you expect that will be done by?
Apart from a couple of points we raised on a check on, I think I can at least get it done. Probably next couple of days.
Okay, that's going to give us, so far we've got 3 documents at group last call stage at the moment. And next is the alarm extension.
Okay, so I believe this is fairly close to being done, based on some conversations earlier today with Robert on JS Calendar. I'm going to add back in some text that was in the previous draft that allows the related to property to be used in VLRs, specifically for student alarm that can relate back to the original alarm that was actually snoozed. One other issue that just popped up in my head, I believe in Montreal a year ago, there was a little bit of pushback on the proximity alarm trigger. And privacy issue with potentially leaking a user's geographic location. I don't recall where that was left. I don't know if it was decided to remove that from the draft, even though it's deployed by Apple, or if I need to take this to the GeoPriv folks to see if they have any language that we want to add or any kind of pushback.
Yeah, I wonder if we can, in the language for that, like, require that can only be used as a display alarm, and it's on the device that's detecting the location. So it never actually leads. It's like the thing that's alerting you is already knows where it is. It's not sending that information anywhere. You see what I mean? Because that's actually what's happening with the Apple ones. As we said, that's widely deployed already.
Well, if you send the event to somebody else, it's just going to reveal that you might be close to a certain location at some time.
Well, so yeah, so the leakage would be certainly if you had like an email type alarm, and if the client side send an email, like, so that would then send to someone else. But yeah, I don't think there is a privacy concern in the way it's currently being used and the way it's intended to be used. But we would probably just need language that's very clear to restrict it to those use cases and to warn people not to allow it. You know, if you just had a system that automatically fired off whatever other types of alarms, it's that for that. Yes.
Okay. I will add text to that effect, and whenever it gets to last call, we'll see if it passes the security area review.
And then the other thing is only allowing users to set it for themselves. Just text, which most systems do already, but just explicitly putting that.
Yes. Okay.
I think between those two, I would expect that to be sufficient.
Does that sound reasonable to chairs?
So, two comments. So the first one is that we should try to have explicit text that expose the problem and why it does not happen. So exactly the discussion we're having now, rather to try to find some wordings that hide the problem. So because that's going to pop up at some point. So
problem. I think,
yeah.
as what we've discussed, putting that explicitly on paper to say this is the problem, this is why.
To discuss the problem and how to mitigate.
Yeah. That's a way to move that forward. And yeah, I think it might worth not wait the last call to have the discussion. So I'm going to try to check that with the security directorate or directly finding some GeoPriv folks, because they're not. I mean, the GeoPriv working group is not here anymore, so so it might to have a review before the last call might be to go to the security directorate.
Okay.
Cool. It sounds to me like this one we won't do last call in the immediate term, which is probably good because we already have 3 documents we're about to take for last call, and that's probably enough.
Mm-hmm.
For now.
That's all I have on this draft.
Cool.
So when do you plan to have that updated?
I will try to do that within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, right. So basically, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 drafts that are expected to be moved. I mean, pretty be baked. What about the converting from N to iCal?
I don't have a problem if the VLARM extensions waits for the other 3 to pass last call.
Oh no, me, I don't have any problem having multiple last calls.
Okay.
It's just some calls are going to be longer than the others. So yeah, we might delay, but it's going to be a short delay between those. So I mean, one of the questions I had is, do we want to have a last call for GS calendar and conversion at the same time?
I don't think it needs to. Like, the conversion is going to be an informational thing anyway, not a standard track one. It's only the JS calendar spec itself that's standard track, because so I don't think we need to wait for that. Having said that, Robert how much work is it to update the JS calendar iCalendar conversion document?
It's been lagging a bit behind, so I think it's at the moment reflecting version 17. So I'd also rather prefer having them separate.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather we didn't hold up going to last fall on the JS calendar for that. I think it doesn't need to, and then we'll get that out as soon as we can afterwards, or even at the same time because it's quicker. Even we can publish it later.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you right?
Yep. So next up, we have the scheduling controls doc, which is me. It expired, so I left it too long without updates. I've gone through the feedback from the list and fixed the obvious mistakes in there. But the open question of do we actually need the scheduled user address at all? And if so, should it be multiple value? I don't yet have an answer for. I need to sit down and think about it in more detail. So I expect we'll keep pushing this one back. I will do some more testing on it and also sit down and whiteboard all the scenarios that we can think of with Ken later this week and double check that we're happy with it. If we decide we don't need scheduled user address, then we'll just ditch it and the document will become very simple and just be a single scheduling control header. In which case I will push it. Cool. That is all leads. We're now on to Ryan and the maintenance notifications.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I also have Shane with me as well and Todd. They were curious about how this was going to go. So this is my first time with IETF at all. So I'm not really sure exactly what you guys are wanting me to talk about or what questions you need or whatever.
Cool. Is Todd there with you at the moment?
Yeah,
Todd,
I'm here.
yeah.
I'm here.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Can I grab your name just for the notes?
So my name's Todd Parker, P-A-R-K-E-R.
Yep. And you're with Twitch. Awesome. That's
Yeah.
all I need. Somebody else. Cool. I've got Shane already. Oh, yeah. Awesome. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead. Did you want to present anything?
I don't think so. I think I just had some general questions about the feedback I received from the initial draft. Yeah. So when we submitted this, this has been a draft that's been floating around that we've worked with a couple other people on, and we wanted to see how you guys felt about it, to kind of see if it was a good idea or if this was something that we could move forward with one way or the other. I know Twitch and a lot of other peers that we work with have a pretty high demand for automating these maintenance notifications that we get. I mean, we get like thousands a year. So when we started doing this process, we wanted to bring it to the IETF and see what you guys thought. So it sounded like from the initial feedback that kind of using the X name properties was probably not the best approach. And what might be a better approach was to actually ask for an introduction of a new component. That's kind of the feedback that's how I took the feedback. Is that accurate? I think Ken was providing a decent amount of feedback.
Yeah, I think putting all these specific properties in its own new component makes the most sense, and we're starting to take that direction with other drafts currently in the working group.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still the question of whether we should even whether we even need to create properties. I mean, these aren't calendaring properties. They're notification properties. So redefining an existing set of data as iCalendar properties doesn't make great deal of sense to me. Which is why I suggested using structured data.
I think I heard someone suggest you use structured data for this. Is that what I?
Yeah, that's Mike.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
It was sort of made exactly for this kind of purpose, that you have some external. I mean, I absolutely agree with the idea of using iCalendar objects as some way of transporting this, because they're time related and all the rest of it. But if you use the structured data properties in the event pub spec, you can define your own schema and just refer to that, and then embed the data inside that. Either you can just point at it, or you can have the actual body of the thing in there. It could be JSON or XML or whatever is appropriate for what you're doing. And then you just retain control of the schema. You don't need to, if you add new properties, you're not going through the whole performance of updating an RFC or anything else. You just update your own schema.
Sure. Okay. Understood. So the reason that we wanted to take this approach, at least to get some ideas and opinions of others, is we're trying to kind of make this fit into the whole industry. There's a lot of other people that kind of want to see this sort of approach to help automate their notification parsing. So as far as maintaining a schema, if we did that, you're suggesting maintaining a public schema that everyone could reference. Yes. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
And then the control of that schema is yours. You can update it at any time you feel like it, and you have your own process for notifying people or tell them to switch to a different schema or whatever is appropriate. And it's not calendar data in there. It's notification data for the purposes you have.
Sure.
So I think that's a more flexible approach. It makes a lot more sense to me to do it that way.
So I guess from a question of wanting to maybe lock down the schema and make it so that it's known by the one organization, you could still publish a separate IETF document that specifies the schema.
Well, schema.org is the place where we initially looked at for some of these things for itineraries. But you could publish it at schema.org. And then it's public.
Okay, so your suggestion is to place this on schema.org and then maintain it there, correct?
And then apart from the fact using the new structured data property, there's no change needed to the iCounter specification. You've just got a regular iCounter event with this payload.
Sure. Okay. Okay, I appreciate that feedback. Thank you. That's why we're going through this process. Does anyone else have anything about that?
Sorry, Dana, go ahead. Sorry.
So one question I had about the structured data approach, and I'm kind of new to this iCal thing, so I'm not sure if this is covered somewhere, but is this something that's kind of widely supported already? You know, if we were to interact with any kind of iCalendar clients or anything like that, is this something that would already be supported, or is this something still in its own draft stage?
It's well, obviously it's not widely supported. It's still a draft stage at last call, but it's going to end up in say iCal for J as soon enough, because I'll be implementing it there in libraries, and I guess the other libraries will pick it up fairly quickly.
Yeah. In terms of, is it going to be compatible? It will round trip on any existing servers, yes. Fine, and it won't interrupt. It won't be compatible, and the clients already know how to display it. But that would also be the case for any new properties.
Okay.
Yeah, you have the same problem, yes. With any new properties you add, you have the same problems that they wouldn't be supported in the sense that client libraries wouldn't recognize them.
Got it. So it would be an equal amount of work either way, except with the structured data approach, we're more flexible in how we define the schema.
Yeah, I mean, well, with the structured data approach, you need to do one thing, and then your own schema.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that feedback. Really do.
Cool. So in terms of where we go with this from here, I guess the next step is for you to update the draft based on this feedback. If you decide to go this way, and
well, yeah, I guess my next question would be, if we go the structured data route, is there a purpose in defining or creating an IETF document? I mean, would there be an IETF document that defines the schema, or will we just host it on schema.org?
That's a point. There's no if you're doing that, yeah, there's no that there is actually no impact on the IETF.
Yeah. Okay.
Or schema.org.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was. Okay.
I mean, I would like to see. Well, maybe that's where CalConnect can step in, because This is a very good usage of counter of the counter data, and so it would be good to just provide that by use case. But this is another way of using counter data. I'd like people to know about that as a means.
Yeah, this is Ken again. So I've got two answers to your question. The first one would be, it depends what the other vendors that want to use this want to see. Do they want to see a standards draft document? But to Mike's point, it might be nice to have this written up as a best current practices document. That
Okay.
if you're doing something similar to this, this is how we see it being implemented.
Okay. Okay. We can definitely take that feedback and make a determination from there on what we need to do to move forward.
Of course, this raises another question for Neil and Robert, which is, does JS Calendar have an equivalent place for putting structured data at the moment around that, and do we need one?
Well, that's the same as we have with a lot of the other extensions. Is I think we need to sit down and look at all the extensions that aren't currently covered and figure out how we're going to do that translation.
Yeah, I'm easily adequate property to
This one's a relatively simple one to write, but we don't want to. I guess we don't want to hold. Much as I'd like to see all these things embedded in JS Calendar from the beginning.
That's why there's a registry. It doesn't all need to be there, but you can add stuff easily. I think
it's just that we end up in the same situation where people have to get this pile of documents, virtually speaking. It's rather nice to have things in one document.
Sure, that's the trade-off. There's no
it's not going to happen. So maybe we can try and have an update with a number of extensions in one document.
Sure, that sounds good.
That might be the alternative. So yes, we need to do something about that.
My screen locked. All right. Anything else we need to do on this?
I don't think so. We'll talk to our vendors and see kind of what they would prefer in this area as well, and then I'll come back to you guys with any questions that we have. But it sounds like probably the easiest approach so far is to maybe define something on schema and go from there. So we'll work through it and I'll let you guys know. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, do stay in touch, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. Really, this is super helpful for me. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for joining. Just a comment. So a clarification, maybe it's at the IETF, we're different kind of RFCs. So it could be an informational on how you do that and you solve that problem. So that could be one way to go through also. So just to let you know.
Okay. So maybe after we get the schema defined and
yeah,
this is working for us, we can write an informational document to kind of like a best practices, like Ken was saying, sort of.
Yeah, sort of. It could
Okay.
be, but please, before you write, just check with the working group what they thought are, so you don't do something useless.
I will. Okay. It's a lot of work. I will.
will.
Thank you. All right.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next thing, VPOL.
So yeah, this is a pretty complex document, but we've already implemented it in a number of places, so it clearly works. But as I said in the second there, I want to change. Now that we've got a participant component, it makes more sense to use that than the vVoter thing, which we defined before we had a participant. So I want to switch vVoter to being a participant. It's a relatively simple change, that it means rather than defining a component, it shows how the component is updated for this. So I'll get that done. As I said, we want to try and get it out there before anybody decides that they really like the idea and want to implement it. But we want to implement it with participant. And the way the whole VPOL thing is supposed to work is we have this sort of VPOL component with various bits and pieces defined, and then you have modes of working, and each mode could introduce extra properties or constraints or behaviors. And at the moment, I think the basic mode, which is pretty much, say, like, you know, the familiar doodle mode of working, is a little entangled with the core of the specification. And I think what I do is move it out, make sure it's all completely separated. As a separate top level section is basic mode, and then introduce some extra properties or constraints there if they need to. And that would actually provide a pattern for defining other modes later on, but it also makes it clear what part of the stuff is really the core and which part is basic mode. And you know, so our first target was basic mode, which is pretty much like Doodle. Reverse scheduling is the kind of situation you get into where, for example, you're trying to make a doctor's appointment or whatever, and you're the person who's trying to make the appointment, but they're the people who own it. And there's nothing in the current iCalendar and IETF specifications allow you to do that. So vPol actually provides a way that we can standardize that process where you could ask for a number of spare slots within a given time period, say, and then select one of them, and then an event gets created with the doctor's office as the organizer, and you who start the whole process off as being the attendee. And that's a very common scenario which just isn't supported in the standards. So vPol provides a way to do it. So that's why we're very interested in that particular mode. So there are some other modes where we're interested in sign up and things like that, but I think in the interest of getting this thing out fairly quickly, so these people can see what track we're heading on, I'll probably just update the Vivo to participant and do a little bit of cleanup and then resubmit it so that at least it's clear where we're headed. And I think I can do that in the next week or two.
So I'm just wondering how many round trips will we have?
Sorry?
How many round trips we will have using this extension?
Is that round trips?
Yes.
For this is Ken. For basic mode, it's no worse off than a normal request reply in terms of scheduling. The difference here being well, take that back. So there is an extra round trip in that the first request the organizer sends the poll with multiple options for, let's say, a meeting request, and then each attendee votes on those choices, and once the organizer has received all the votes, the actual meeting request goes out once the winner of the poll is selected.
It actually provides it makes for a much more efficient process for people. It says that have we lost them?
No, my experience a lot.
Yeah. I mean, this all goes back to the days when the CALEXT worked with Boeing to solve some of the problems they had, or try to solve some of the problems they had, and they were taking 21 hours per meeting to put together their internal meetings they had with their contractors. So it's an enormously lengthy process, and Doodle has sort of solved that, but it's not integrated with everybody falls back on something like Doodle, and it works pretty well because there's sort of peer pressure. You put it out there, people start to put down their preferences, and the people who come later along feel that they sort of have to fall in line with what earlier people have done. Mm. So it tends to come down to, it tends to produce a result very quickly. So each of those updates would involve a round trip, but it's not enormously expensive in that respect. It's not, there's a vast amount of traffic.
Oh yeah. I mean I didn't want to. I just wanted to figure out if I got the scheme right. So
Oh, yeah.
it's a.
So basically what happens is there's an update mode for VPOL, which is fairly efficient. So we introduced some new IETF methods to try and make this more efficient, because the VPOL object itself is pretty sizable, because it can have all the alternative meetings. So you can have a dozen meetings inside this thing. And you don't want to send that out every time. So there is an update method which really just sends the current state of the votes. And so when somebody changes, and it doesn't send all the votes either. So when somebody changes their vote, or actually votes on the thing, all that gets sent out is that vote to the other people. So it's a relatively efficient process. I mean, we cut down the amount of data that goes backwards and forwards. So only occasionally will either the client will request a full refresh of the object, or I think at the very end we might actually send one out as to summarize where we got to.
Anyway, so what we're expecting from the working group is a new draft in the next few weeks.
I just have to get this thing updated, and I also have to change the name because I got the name.
Yes.
So it will be CALEXT. It's still the
Draft IETF CALEXT VPOL 00.
Yes.
I've committed to Mike to help with the refactoring the text to split out the basic logo to its own section.
But how many work is needed for that one? Is it already implemented, or?
It's already implemented in
Okay.
at least 3 places.
They're not widely deployed.
But not widely
It's still
deployed.
implemented for testing purposes now.
Okay.
But it's certainly a working thing. I mean, I implemented it so that it was actually going to be used.
Okay.
I mean, there's three or four implementations that was designed for proof of concept, and now they need to be updated to wherever the spec goes.
Okay, so it's pretty mature.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a customer is planning to build something on it in the next little while, not immediately, but
At some point.
yeah.
It's your job to your office. And it's not, I mean, we have, there has been some interest expressed elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I think, which is, why we need to get the participant changed up fairly quickly, so we'll know where we're going.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean that's good. It's good to bring that to the IETF mailing list, and CalConnect folks, please don't be shy of providing feedbacks on that mailing list. That's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. iCalendar series. Yes, you again, Mike.
So iCalendar series is something that was, the thoughts came up because, I mean, I got a system which is heavily used by universities and things for public events. And typically, almost every event in some places is a recurring event. And some of the previous specifications and proposals and things that we've made have been, how can we try to reduce the load that is caused by especially very large recurring events. And many recurring events consist almost entirely of overrides. Every instance is different, and even in meetings it's like that. People put up a meeting, and then every week they change the agenda. So everything's an override, and if you try and retrieve that, you get this huge object back. So a series aligns very much with the way people in libraries and places think about these things. It's a museums have these things, and it's a series of events that are all part of something, but each one is different. It has its own description, it has its own embedded images, and so on and so forth. So this is a way of showing that this is something. These are linked. They repeat over time, but they look largely like independent individual events. So it's making use of the related to property to link these things together. It also deals with some of the issues with recurrences and what happens when you change the pattern on the recurrences. It has built into it the idea of linking these series together for when these changes take place. And that's not, you know, in recurrences, there are different solutions to that, but none of that's been standardized either. And there's been a fair amount of support for that when people's been presented to. So I think it would be good to make it more widely known. And the spec itself seems to be, we've gone through it on a couple of occasions, and the spec itself seems to be pretty solid at this stage.
So the server is generating the instances ahead?
It can. That was part of the one of the things. There were a number of things I sort of rolled into this. One of them was that some while back, the interest had been expressed in trying to have sort of, they're not sort of self-generating, because somebody's got to generate these things, but a way of saying how many of these things do you generate and how far ahead do you do so? And the interest there was in saying, we have a meeting that takes place every week and you need to book a room for it. You need to fill out in advance where, so you've got a room booking in place. But typically those room booking systems will say you can only book, say, a month in advance or whatever. So this was an attempt to express and allow that. You would say, generate 1 month's worth of these things in advance, and then something is responsible for generating those. In a client-server type situation, it might be something going on in the server. It's also, you know, a client could simply generate more when it's retrieved.
Is the series master first instance was abstract kind of template instance not?
I can't remember.
Okay, I'm just.
But we don't want to, yeah, we don't want to fall into the same problem we got with. I think I did specify explicitly in the spec where that stood. I can't remember whether we said it actually is the first instance, although even it doesn't even say that for recurrences. But yeah, we don't want the same problem with we've had there. Is it or isn't it?
Yeah, I was trying to see like this is how much this is different to just having a series with related to events and the more pointing back to the initial, which is what we define data kind of the splits, which is what you do in splits up. Well, but there's differences if the server is generating ones ahead of time for you, that's clearly different. That's adding extra functionality. It's not just linking a series of events, it's also getting the server to create new ones in the series. Well, you can already link events with the later.
So, but you need to, yeah, I mean, it is, I mean, you can already link events if anything support them. Of course, nothing supports related to in a meaningful way. You can put them in there, but no client does anything with it.
Sure, but client doesn't need a new spec to do something with it. Just
no, but no, this is using linking, but it's also using recurrent pattern. So you create these things.
Yes, that seems to be the key.
That's it. And it maps very closely to what libraries, museums, and the rest do, much more than a recurrence does.
Sure. So you need the ability to create these specifically on the server.
Well, a client could create it. I mean, that's.
Oh, but then you've got if something's generating ahead of time, you might have two different clients that compete with each other to generate them.
It obviously makes more sense.
I think you only really want this to be
We
done.
get the same situation with scheduling, where you can CalDAV scheduling, you can
Absolutely,
specify.
letting the client do it is terrible idea.
So if you've got a client server thing going, then clearly the server is the best place to do it. So that would be the assumption. That would be the preferred mode. But it doesn't prohibit a client from doing it.
All right, so this is the series master.
I don't like the same measure of occurrence. It's not clear to me what that is. Like other than the first one of the occurrence.
I've lost the.
Oh, big one. Yeah.
Okay, that does probably need a little. Oh, those two sentences are conflicting, aren't they?
Hmm. So it looks like maybe some work is required.
Yeah. Oh, I think the general idea is interesting. But yeah, this needs some more work.
So what I was proposing here is that we do a call for adoption to adopt this as a piece of work for the working group. What do you think about that, Daniel? Does that seem like a good next step?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be ready to be adopted. I mean, I think as long as we get some interest and enough people that is willing to work on, we can ship it as the, we can have it as a 0.0 version and then increase the number. We've seen we go up to 19 sometimes. It's just, we should not be, I mean, it's even better to see that this is being actually discussed on that mailing list. So I would not refrain from proposing that for adoption.
Yeah, cool. All right, I'll do a call for adoption on that today.
It's not submitted. Did I submit it?
It's submitted under your name, but it's an expired draft.
Okay. Well, that's the thing. I could submit the CALEXT version if we're going ahead with it. That would bring it back to life again.
Cool. Yeah, I'll put out the call for adoption just in case anyone on the list objects to the whole idea of working on it, and then submit a 0.0 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Cool. Next, we've got any other business. Let me just go back to sharing slides.
Yeah, so hopefully by Singapore we've got the last school stuff's kind of ended the way it's last school.
Yeah.
You could put the end of the last school close just at the end of the fashion.
They tend to just have the last call finished beforehand unless there's any particular need.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Shut up notifications. All right. Is there any other upcoming work that people want this working group to do? Anything we should be planning for?
I think that if we have a meeting in Singapore, it's going to be a good good timeline to have the work we commit to be achieved to.
Yeah.
So, and I think it keep us on track. So I'm not against having a small call, depending on which time zone most of the people are going to be. Are you going to be in Singapore, Brown?
Yes, I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be there.
It's in your neighborhood.
It's 8-hour direct flight or something.
Yeah. Easy.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. There we go. We're finished half an hour early. This was an hour and a half session.
Oh,
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
And just for the meeting in Singapore, I mean, we could do two ways. One, we could have a side meeting. I mean, if the schedule is better, depending on the time zone, I think we have this kind of flexibility, so we can have that a side meeting or official meetings, depending on what is better for you guys.
Yeah, well, we've already asked for an official time slot at the IETF, so presumably we will hope that that comes up at a reasonable time for.
Yeah, that's my. We never know.
Regardless, there'll be a few people there. Cool. All right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for this work being done, and let's move that forward.
Awesome. I'll kill off the recording. Thanks for reminding me, and see you in Singapore.
Thanks,
See you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.